Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today this is going to be the first video of a 3-video mini-series that I plan to upload over the next week on this channel. Trying my best to convince as many of you as possible to unlock Liquid Courage, Double Edge, Recall, and just have tons of fun with those masteries. Also trying to prove to you why they are so beneficial, great, and as many people as possible should be trying to unlock those masteries pretty much as early as possible. Right, so the first video is going to be all about why I personally believe that Suicide Masteries are absolutely amazing. That is, we're going to go over the biggest benefits, we're going to try and deal with some drawbacks of them, and this is effectively going to be a rehash of my 2019 video. That's right, in 2019 I already made a video that Suicide Masteries are amazing in 2019, and here is why. Now, 2 years later, I still think so, even more than I did before, and we have some catching up to do. Because over time, since 2019, we can take a look at 2019 champions. Now, Diablo, with the rework, has become excellent purveyor of Liquid Courage. He becomes significantly better with them if he's awakened, and he turns into an absolute healing machine. A Black Widow Clairvoyant, the best Mystic champion with Recoil, Liquid Courage, Double Edge active, and is one of the best Mystic champions in the game. We have Namor, we have Captain Marvel movie version, we have Warlock, who also loves those masteries, Guillotine 2099, and plenty others. And moving on to 2020, the beneficial impacts of those masteries on Immortal Abomination are huge, thanks to the enhanced healing abilities. And then we have champions like Cosmic Ghost Rider, Dragon Man, Guardian, Hitmonkey, Immortal Hulk, who all work perfectly fine with them. Then now, one of the best skill champions in game currently, Mole Man, benefits significantly from them, not just because his damage is significantly enhanced, but also because he has a quicker startup, because he gains 2 monster mass at the beginning of the fight, so he only needs to drop 1 heavy attack and he's ready to enter Frenzy, so that makes him a lot more efficient. And we could go on and on. Obviously, there are champions in this game who do not like these masteries too much, who do not work too well with them. The vast majority of the champions in this game, at least, well, let's say, tolerate these masteries. Right, so let's jump to the first point, why they are good. And nothing explains that better as, simply put, any quest. Pick any quest you want to enter, you'll be able to do faster with those masteries on. Why? Because you're going to be dealing more damage, so each fight is going to take less time. So ultimately, if you have half an hour to play this game, in that half an hour, let's say you can do 3 paths instead of 2. And there is a significant difference. And most easily, that difference is noticeable, for instance, if you grind arena, even casually, for milestones. So putting frankly, let's say, if you're going to jump in arena and take a look at the milestones in arena, assuming that there is about 30 to 40% speed increase at the minimum, which you do get by running these masteries, by significantly cutting down your fight time. Let's take a look at milestones. So assuming that you're going to grind for, what, let's say 1 million points. So when you want to grind for 1 million points, and now all of a sudden you can grind out 1.5 million points, or 1.4 million points. That, in that small instance alone, will give you extra 30 units every single time you put up 1 million points. Imagine it would be like getting a 40-50% increased return or increased, wage on a job. Do the same thing, do it faster, and get more. That is the best argument for these masteries. But we all know that. Super helpful for arena, and you get job done quicker, stuff like that. But there are things that we do not think about daily that are also extremely beneficial. And this kind of like stems from the same idea where you can do more quicker because the fights are shorter. And that is the simple fact that you will be making less mistakes. Per fight, or per path, or per quest, you will end up making less mistakes. Now, why is that? Why increase in attack makes you a better player? Well, it doesn't. However, it lessens your critical periods of making a mistake. You see, all of us have a margin of error. Simple as that. When you need intercept, you might be fairly proficient with intercepts and you can nail out 9 out of 10. Right? That means you're going to fail 1 intercept in 10. And if you need to perform 10 intercepts in one fight, that means that statistically, you're going to fail at least once. But keeping the same margin of error, where you mess up 1 intercept out of 10. Imagine if the fight requires you to only intercept 5 times. That means that you're going to only mess up 1 fight, and 1 is going to be perfect. Right? It's the similar principle of if any single one of you would have to throw a basketball 3-pointer. So you're trying to throw 3-pointer. So it's not impossible. Probably not going to get it the first time or second, but you're eventually going to get it. And now imagine if you had to throw the 3-pointer 5 times in a row. For most of you, it would take days. For myself as well, probably. And that is a difference. Running Liquid Courage, running Recoil, having that 60% increase in attack and extra increase in special attacks, you lessen the need of repeating the same action precisely. Whether that is parry, you don't need to parry 10 times a fight, you can parry 4 times a fight. So statistically, in more fights, you're not going to fail the parry. Baiting out special attacks, that is actually one of the critical points where people mess up. They get caught on a dash back or they dash in when opponent throws special attack, something like that. But by the simple idea of you having to do the same action less times in a fight, you increase the chance of you doing the fight perfectly fine. And that is the key aspect that a lot of people are missing. Having quicker fights, you will make less mistakes in any given average fight, because you have less chances to make mistake in that fight. So that is point number 2. Point number 2, at this point already undeniably, is champion interactions that extend past increased damage. There are plenty of champions that unlock new abilities that they otherwise wouldn't have, or are able to heal, or I don't know, have more potent offensive capabilities. There are plenty of examples of that. We can take a look at one of the newest additions to the game, Hercules. Now, he reduces the bleed damage and the poison damage, which net result lets him slightly heal throughout the entire fight. And if you throw special attacks, then that offsets the recoil. If you just had made a mistake and want to recover some health, you can do so. You can slow the game down, and voila, you're going to be healing. Black Widow Clairvoyant. She heals based on the damage she does. So, you, by doing more damage, unlock yourself access to more healing. And those are by no means only example. Ghost. Ghost is effectively a completely different champion, whether you run her with or without Liquid Courage and Double Edge. Because in any shorter length of fight, Ghost gains an immense attack increase by having 2 of those passive furies on her. And I could go mention examples like that for a really long time. But that is the entire point, that by having access to those debuffs, with plenty of champions right now in 2021, you gain a significant benefit to champion abilities, which is going to be a wider theme of the second video that I'm going to make, which is going to be which champions benefit the most and which are the better champions to run with Liquid Courage Double Edge. But in general, we need to put that point in here as well, because a lot of your champions will become more powerful past the increase in attack. Like even Angela just gains an indefinite forever heal. Why wouldn't you want that in your champion? Absolutely amazing. However, there is the final point to discuss. There is the final and the obvious downside that every single person likes to point out whenever these masteries are discussed. And that is quite simply that, by definition, you lose health. Now, if you jump to your mastery tree, and I will jump to mine, the biggest problem, in fact, is the recoil. That is the biggest deterrent. That is the actual cost. Never you mind that poison debuff, never you mind that bleed debuff, the recoil is the actual deterrent. That every time you use special attack, you're going to be losing 5% of your health. And then on top of that, you can include additional 5 to 10% health loss because of these debuffs, Liquid Courage, Double Edge. Obviously, this does not apply to all of the champions because we have plenty of champions that shrug them off. We have plenty of champions that have partial or complete immunities to both of these debuffs. But there's pretty much nobody that's realistically recoil immune in this game, maybe with the exception of Thing, if you turn on the protection, and a couple other champions who can reduce that damage. But in general, recoil is there. Recoil and generic health loss is kind of like the things that people like to avoid. I like to spam special attacks, they say. Well, let's think about it in pure math principles. Let's open any random quest in Act 7. Act 7 is known to be one of, it's the latest content. It's as jacked opponents as you can see, and as big health pools, and maps are plentiful. So let's just open 7-2-4 map. Sure, let's enter it. 7-2-4 map, right? How many fights a path do we see? Every single path has 6 fights in it. Every single path, 6 fights in it. And then there is a boss. But before boss, you can get a fresh champion, so we don't even have to count in the boss here. But let's assume it's 7 fights. Well, luckily for everybody, you start the quest with 500% health. You start the quest with 5 champions at 100% health, right? That means that throughout the quest, you can throw 100 special attacks before you basically exhaust your health pool. The actual math there is a bit different, pending whether you finish a fight with a special attack or not finish a fight, but assuming that it's somewhere in there. You can throw about 100 special attacks before recoil would have gotten to you, right? That's a huge amount of special attacks. So if you're not messing up as much as you would be otherwise, then even the most recoil unfriendly champions, like Carnage, like Professor X, you can still use them for 2 fights, easy, in these quests. Even if you're running those masteries, so long as you're not bringing in like 5-star rank 2 in Act 7, you can still easily run recoil unfriendly champions and use them for a minimum of 2 fights. In real likelihood, probably around 3 fights, sometimes 4. And if you have 5 champions and you have 6 fights to do, then even though you do lose health due to these masteries, you do not get extra cookie points by finishing the quest with a higher percentage of health than you otherwise would be. You gain nothing, whether you gain nothing extra from finishing a quest with a full team of 100% healthy champions, right? It doesn't matter if you finish at 100%, 80%, or 15%. So long as you do the quest, so long as you don't have to use items, so long as you do not have to use revives, good to go. So even if you have to use champions that do not handle recoil, Liquid Courage, Double Edge too well, you can still do it. Even in Act 7. I'm going in Act 7, I have Liquid Courage, Double Edge, and I use Dr. Doom. Yeah, I'm not going to use Dr. Doom for all 6 fights. I'm going to use him for 2 and 3. And I'm going to be fine with that. Then I'm going to bring in a different champion. That's not to mention the fact that you likely have at least 1 to 2 champions on your team that handle these masteries better than others do, that you could in theory keep using for much longer. So that argument has never held too much water to me unless you are working with an extremely limited roster where you quite literally have only like 1 or 2 champions that you can potentially bring in for this node combination. Then yeah, it can be tricky. And I'm not gonna lie, there are node combinations which make using Liquid Courage Double Edge harder, but there are plenty of node combinations which make using them easier. So it's kind of cut from one side, add into another side, but ultimately basically equals out. It's kind of like the same idea of recoil takes your health, but the second point in this video demonstrated how Liquid Courage and Double Edge actually saves you health because you're making less errors in the fight because the fights are shorter, and that again balances each other out, with the only net difference being that you're doing these quests faster. That means that you can either choose to have more time to spend outside of the game, or you can choose to simply do more things in the game in the same amount of time, whichever one you prefer. So that is why Suicide Masteries, Recoil, Liquid Courage, Double Edge are absolutely phenomenal in Malcolms of Champions in 2021. How plethora of champions that handle them perfectly. You can use them with champions that don't. Overall, you do gain massive gains in the ability to acquire resources or clear content. And if I may add, they are also a hell of a lot more fun. That is it for now. As I said, there will be a couple more videos coming in this series, with the next one being where I discuss which champions gain the most significant benefits and which are the champions you probably want to keep an eye out for if you are planning to run these masteries. That being said, that is it for now. Wow, my tongue's getting twisted out. And yeah, I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about